friends, this is the Miss Lovely from our half-acre homestead, and today we're planting and starting our garden seeds. Okay, so first things first, we're going to plan our garden. Now, I have raised beds, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't plan it anyway. So, I've unfolded a big old brown piece of paper grocery bag. This, maybe I should have done this in the other direction, but we're going to mark these down here. Essentially, we only have to write in them, right? So we're just going to make these a smaller box just because they're additional beds. Okay, so this is where the planning comes in. Last year, this was my potatoes. And this was leeks. And this was strawberries. The strawberries are coming out. They didn't do well. And I'll just throw them out back where the wild strawberries grow and hope that they blend. Here was my turnips. And we know the reason I had so much rot on the bottom of them is because I need a sandy soil for my turnips. And I know exactly, I can get that from Jimmy Carroll. He sends me beautiful, he brings me beautiful garden soil that are just, it's just manure piles that have composted and rotted for years. Okay, and so here was how many beans did I have last year? Right, let's remember where other things were. Here was celery. And here was celery. And here was celery. And no. These three were celery, right? And these three were celery. And this one was celery. And these three were beans. Beans. Okay, now the reason I'm writing these out fairly lightly in here is because I want to rotate certain things. Okay, so where the beans were last year, I want to plant celery this year. So this is, the pen marks is last year. This year, right here, we're going to plant celery. Now, if you remember, only 2 of my 4 celery beds did well. So we're going to amend the soil this year, and hopefully, if I get 3 full celery beds, we're good. So that's going to be celery. And where the celery was, I'm going to plant beans. Why? Well, for starters, beans put nitrogen in the soil. So by putting the celery where the beans were used to be, they're going to get a nice bump. So here, let me think now. Okay, we're still going to do the potatoes here. And this year I'm buying organic Bug Be Gone, because I probably will get 3 times as much potatoes as I did. Now these are just the raised beds. These aren't my tomatoes and everything. So far we've got celery, potatoes, and let's do a whole row of beans. Now I'm planting pole beans this year, so I should only probably plant 3 boxes of beans, but we do eat a lot of beans. So I'm going to put in 4 here. Okay. So now we have our staples, our celery. Now I don't have any leek seeds this year. I don't have any leek seeds yet. And since it's time to start them, I'm just going to hope I can get my hands on some leek plants. But we're going to take the old strawberry bed and we're going to turn that into a leek bed. Now, that means I have, or at least 1, 2, 3 more beds to design and possibly 3 more to plant in. This is getting more complicated. So, what do we want to plant? We want our leeks. Now, I think I'm going to plant a squash over here. Now, because my squash are all going to be winter squash, it's okay. Don't plant cucumbers or summer squash or zucchini or anything of the kind when you're in your garden when you're planting winter squash. Alternate your seasons. I once planted butternut squash and spaghetti squash. And what I got was a slightly orange spaghetti squash that had some fibrous strands, but it was more mushy than strandy. And it wasn't a good mix. So don't mix your winter and your summer squash, okay? Put them in 2 totally different plots at different ends of your property. So I think I'm going to plant some buttercup squash there. And I think I'm going to put pumpkin here. Winter buttercup. I love my buttercup. And maybe some butternut. Now, oh, wait a minute. Yes. I'm going to plant my turnip here. Okay, you folks, some folks call it rutabaga. I call it turnip. And I'm going to plant 2 turnip. Now that I know that the soil needs to be sandy, they should do much better. Last year, half of the bottom half of them rotted because the soil was too rich and didn't have enough drainage. So that still leaves us a surprise. There we go. So this is the garden. I can't spell. Garden 2020. All right. Now that our garden is planned, and I haven't even started the planning of the front bed yet, but so let's go on the back for that. Ooh, we have some leakage, so let's do this a little bit lighter. Okay. So in the front garden, okay, here's the porch. Here's the stairs. Here's the veranda. This is the pool. Okay. Now, this is my railing here, and I'm going to get Howie to build me a raised bed right there. And we want it to be at least 18 inches deep. And this is going to be for pole beans. And what I'm going to do there is I'm going to run string right from the pole beans all the way up to my gutters. And then I'm going to let them grow, but I'll be able to pick beans from down here on the ground, halfway up, and then I can come up the stairs into my veranda, and I can pick the higher beans right from my veranda. So there's where my pole beans are going to go. This is the house. And this here is all garden. Now, this mostly is, there's an apricot tree here, and there's bushes here, and there's flowers and stuff here, but along here gets good sunlight. So this is where I want to plant cherry tomatoes, beefsteak, plum. I only want 4 plants, but I'll probably end up with a whole lot more. So let's do cherry, beefsteak, plum. Now, I could fit a lot more plants in there, so I might do 2 of each. And I have, this here is my apricot tree, but it doesn't bloom. Well, it blooms, but it doesn't get fruit because it needs a pollinator. So I've ordered another one, and I'm probably going to dig up my irises and plant my apricot, new apricot right there. Make sense? And Howie and I are thinking of actually putting in a couple more apple trees over here. All right, so there's the planting done. Planning's really good. It helps you from over ordering, over planting, and then you're rushed and you don't know what you got. Okay, we're going to do this the same way we did this last year. This is for my celery. And we're going to make the soil nice and moist. And I mean nice and moist. Now, folks, remember, the thing about celery is not panicking if it doesn't come up like other plants right away. Now my hands are going to get really dirty here. Okay, I need a spray bottle. I'll be right back. We want the surface. I wet the soil, but we want the surface to be wet too, because it takes up to 10 days for celery to germinate. Start seeds indoors 10 to 12 weeks before last frost. Germinate in 2 to 3 weeks. All right, I want to make sure. Now these seeds are so tiny. We want to make sure our soil is in exactly the position we want it to be in. And we are just going to sprinkle, trying to cover the entire surface of this soil with seeds. And trust me, you might be tempted to try and do 2 packets. Don't. And then we just mist spray the seeds, and we keep them moist until we see them beginning to grow. So let's just put, and I use Pro Mix organic soil. All right, so let's just write celery on the outside here, even though I'm going to know. All right, now we're going to do our tomatoes. This is the only things we're starting right now because I can't find the leek seeds I bought last year. I know I bought extra, but all I could find was the 1 packet of celery. All right, so these are squash. I'm not going to plant them yet. Now these are the brandywine seeds from my cousin Dee Dee that she brought me the brandywine tomato. These are a, they look like a really big beefsteak tomato, but it's all written in Polish, so I can't tell. And these are a plum tomato that are very much like, they look like a pepper almost. I don't know if these are even going to grow because I've had them for a really long time. So we'll see. Okay, first things first. I don't know the names of the tomatoes that Agnieszka sent me, so I'm just going to write on here Polish beefsteak. Because I want to remember so that if they do really well, okay, Polish plum. Because I want to remember if they do really well, I want to save the seeds. And this is brandy wine. And this here is, I'm just going to plant a couple cherry tomatoes. If you're reusing old pots, folks, please make sure you wash them really well with bleach. Okay, so here's our brandy wine. Now, all I did was, where did my scissors go? I had scissors here, there. All I did was take a slice of tomato and put the seeds on a coffee filter. So now what I'm going to do is I suppose I could just plant the coffee. Well, let's just see, because if that works, it works, right? So I'm going to take some of the soil out of this. And I'm just going to put that right in there. And I'm going to soak it nice. Add some soil on top. Now once these are up, they'll be going downstairs into the grow tent. All right, there's our brandy wine. And if that comes up, I'm going to put this back in the envelope because there's lots of seeds there. And if they come back, if they come up, then those seeds were worth saving. Okay, now what's this one? This is the Polish beefsteak. I'm sorry, Agnieszka, if I'm calling them Polish, it's only because I can't read the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 languages on the back, but none of them are English, and that's okay. So this is a lot of tomatoes, so I don't want to do more than a couple. Just in case this turns out to be a really good tomato, right? And there are my Polish beefsteak. These are cherry tomatoes, and I don't know how long I've had this package. It's been a couple of years probably. But I mean, I only want 1 or 2 plants of cherry tomatoes for those lovely cucumber marinated salads. And there we go. I have some herbs I want to start soon as well. Polish beefsteak, Polish plum, brandy wine from Dee Dee, and cherry tomatoes. And our tall Utah celery. This is the Miss Wolfie from our half-acre homestead saying, whether it's raised beds or rows, whether it's a container garden or just a patio garden, planning means everything. It means you don't get overwhelmed. It means you know exactly what you got and where you're going to put it. Right? Yay! The garden is essentially started. Woot! Take care. God bless. And as for my teacup garden, here's the cactus Howie got me for Valentine's Day. And if you can see right there, you see new baby ones starting on my crown of thorns. It looks like one of them died, but two of them are taking. Excellent, I like those odds. And here are the blooms. I'll show you how tiny they are. That's my fingernail. And the Christmas cactus that we transplanted into Granddad's teapot has all kinds of new growth. I'm going to say that's a happy plant. I'm going to say they all look pretty happy.